we can make a start. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth, and welcome everyone. And I apologise for the late starting of the meeting, but now we're all here. We can get started. So I'm going to start with apologies. So do we have any apologies, either from members or Gareth, or any apologies?
The only member we missed in chair is Councillor Michael, but I've not had any apologies tendered in advance of the meeting, Chair.
Okay. But we're still quorate, so we can go ahead, can't we? So
correct, we are quorate, yes.
Yeah. So then the next item is the minutes of the last meeting, which was the AGM meeting. Can we agree those? So can I have somebody to move and second that, please? Thanks, Pam.
I'll move and second. Well, I'll move that as a true record.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Thank you. And then, are there any declarations of interest from any members? No. So we can move then to the substantial part of the meeting. So it's our first report is an overview and update, and I see we've had a busy summer, Helen. And I know that different members of the team are going to go through aspects of this report. So I'll hand over to you, Helen, first of all.
Many thanks, Chair. And yes, it will be a team effort, as usual, for the overview and update report. So if I can take members to section 2, and starting with some staffing matters, as usual, and a look at the sickness absence record for Q1. And this is slightly higher than we have experienced in recent years at this time of year, Q1. And as you'll see in 2.2, the short-term rate of absence has increased by 80% compared to where it was in Q1 of 24-25. No particular drivers of that other than, as you see in 2.3, I think we can summarise that as saying there were probably a lot of bugs doing the rounds in Q1, and we're not aware of any other particular drivers, but clearly we'll be monitoring that going forward. Overall, we don't see that there will be any issues impacting on the overall sickness absence for the year, and certainly in comparison with other service areas, the SRS absence rate is very good. It wouldn't be a joint committee meeting without me bringing up the apprenticeship at some point for a further update, and it is a really, really positive update this time after all those years in the making. We've actually gone out to recruitment for 2 regulatory services apprentices, and that recruitment took place over the summer. An open morning took place late in August. Shortlisted candidates to come in and find out a little bit more about what we do and to assist them in the formal interviews which followed earlier this month, in understanding the vast variety that takes place in the shared service. So formal interviews earlier this month, and delighted to say that we've been able to make 2 appointments. We now have 2 apprentices who are, as we speak, being onboarded to become employees. And of course, we're using previously earmarked funds to pay the salaries for the apprentices for the next 18 months. And a note at 2.7, just to say, in the context of the workforce concerns that we've had over the years, this isn't going to magically create environmental health officers or trade and standards officers immediately, but it is a really, really good pathway, a fast track pathway, if you like, into careers in regulatory services, and this is particularly so in the case of the trade and standards profession, and apprentices who successfully complete the qualification will unlock exemptions from the professional qualification, and it's a step closer to becoming in that case, a trading standards officer. So really delighted that we've now got to the stage that we have 2 apprentices coming into SRS. And if we may, we will provide updates on their journeys from here. So that was all, Chair, on staffing matters. I'm very happy to take questions, of course.
Does any member have any questions? I mean, I just to comment on the apprenticeships, Helen, that this really was your perseverance with this. So it is amazing and brilliant that it's taken off, and really also is part of, you know, our commitment as a council to, you know, provide apprenticeships, to provide young people with opportunities in the council. So this is a kind of a win-win, you know, it's a small start, but it's a really good model to share across the council and with, you know, with other councils. So that's good. Norma.
Yeah, I just wanted to say well done, you know, getting there. It's yeah, innovative, and it's fantastic. You know, it's what you wanted for a long time. So well done on getting there. And just on the sickness absence, I mean, your sickness rate, I think, I mean, I don't know about other councils, but compared to us, I mean, your sickness rates are still quite low in comparison to some of the teams we have. And I was just wondering, though, if you thought there was a reason for some of the increase now.
Do you want to take one more question, Helen? Should I take Pam's question? Have you got a question, Pam, or a comment?
Oh, I just want to make a comment. I just want to say thank you for your perseverance and getting this on board, because it's very important that we get these young people on board so they can move on, hopefully.
Brilliant. Over to you, Helen.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Mackie, as I've mentioned in the report, there's no particular concerns other than on the short-term absence rate. It seems that there were a lot of infections, colds, bugs, whatever that was in Q1. On the long-term absence, obviously that saw something of an increase too. Unfortunately, we do have some members of staff who are on long-term sickness absence, but we are obviously supporting them and hope very much that we will be able to get them back into the workplace just as soon as possible. Clearly something that we will monitor closely now in the months ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Are we going to the monitoring?
Yes, Chair. So now Gemma, it would be the financial monitoring with Gemma, or I believe Tyler is on the call too.
Who would like to take this? Gemma.
Hi, well, I think Tyler's going to run through the kind of main headlines of the report, and then we'll handle any kind of questions or comments between us, if that's okay, Tyler.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well,
Tyler, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So the only thing.
Tyler, I'm really sorry. You're really quiet, and your camera's not working.
Be the camera sorted. Is that any better?
You're still really quiet though, Tyler. I don't know whether you can increase the volume at all. Sorry.
That's saying mine's on maximum. Can you hear me any better now?
It's still really quiet for me. I think it's probably quiet for everybody. Yeah.
Yes, it is quite quiet still, Tyler. Sorry.
Let me just have a play somewhere else.
No, we can barely hear you, Tyler, I'm afraid. Can you take it, Gemma?
Absolutely, yes. I can take you through the report.
Sorry, is that better now?
It's a tiny bit better, Tyler. It's still a little bit quiet. I don't know whether you've got a headset or anything you could try.
I haven't got one on me, no.
Okay, don't worry, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry. I can take you through it. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so this just sets out the the monitoring period to the end of June. So obviously very early in the kind of financial year, but I think typically with SRS we have a good picture at this point in terms of where we're likely to outturn unless there's any kind of emerging grant income or other issues. And some of that will be because so much of the service is based on kind of staffing costs. So at Q1, we're forecasting an overspend of 232,000, and that does include obviously that kind of historic Cardiff Authority specific budget shortfall that we've seen in the past that relates to taxi licensing. So the kind of forecast outturn overall, including core and authority specific, is a small underspend for Bridgend, a small overspend for Vale of Glamorgan Council, and then an overspend against budget of 226,000 for Cardiff. What we've assumed at this point in time is that the national insurance uplift will be fully funded. We did obviously set out as part of budget setting what that share of national insurance cost in 25-26 would be, but we were waiting to see what the kind of grant distribution arrangements were in year. So that's been further clarified now, and I think we're clear that the national insurance share has been distributed over the partner authorities because it's been distributed using the formulas that are used as part of the RSG settlement, and therefore the Vale of Glamorgan's Council as kind of host authority is reaching out to the various Section 151 officers to liaise around how those contributions will be billed for in year. So that kind of assumption is built into this monitoring that those amounts will be received in full. So in terms of the authority specific services, this had a gross budget of 2.7 million in year. And I suppose very much that kind of overall position is borne out. So overall we have a small overspend of 181,000 against authority specific services forecast in year, but within that we've got an underspend of around 15,000 against Bridgend. Vale of Glamorgan is projected to outturn on budget, and then an overspend of 196,000 against Cardiff. And that's made up of a small overspend, a small underspend, sorry, against nighttime noise, and we've got that £190,000 overspend against the licensing section. Vale of Glamorgan is forecast to be on budget. There's some small overs and unders that are reflected within that. And then in terms of core, this is obviously predominantly the larger share of the budget, so that's 6.134 million, forecasting an overspend of 51,000. And that's obviously apportioned in accordance with the contributions in year to core services, but it's made up of an overspend against environmental services of 21,000, a small overspend against food services of 18,000, housing services is forecasting an overspend of 42,000, 8,000 underspend against health and safety and communicable disease budget, overspend against pollution services, and then trading standards is forecast to outturn on budget. So at the moment, we haven't projected any drawdowns from reserves, and obviously some of these reserve balances are subject to the council's external audit, not the council's, the Joint Committee's external audit, which is being undertaken at the moment. So only some very preliminary work has taken place so far, but now the main audit is drawing to a close. That work is starting to kick into gear. So hopefully that will be finalised in good time before the end of the calendar year. So those are the main points I was going to pick up on the report, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Gemma. Yeah, as you say, we're kind of early on now at this time. But are there any particular questions anyone would like to ask Gemma at this stage? No? Okay, great. Thanks, Gemma. Sorry, apologies for that. We're going to the service updates. So Christina, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Will and I will be doing a joint effort in this, and for members' information, this is the colourful document in your pack contained in Appendix 1. So I'm not proposing to share my screen, but I will just run through that for information purposes for you to follow the flow. So in terms of, we start with food hygiene as we always do, and of course this is Q1 performance, so we've moved along slightly since this, but the first page there is the high risk food inspections, and I'm referring to category A and B food hygiene inspections in this area. Only one amber on screen there, and that's due to one inspection being missed, but has been carried out since then, so no concerns for you to note on that page. The second, again, entitled high risk food inspections, but we're talking about category C rated inspections here. So those requiring an intervention once every 18 months. Now, members will be aware that we are heavily reliant on contractors in the food service just to bolster our establishment and in terms of numbers. And Q1 was quite slow in terms of identifying contractors and onboarding them. So there has been a very slight lag in terms of the C-rated inspections, and you'll see from the new businesses on the next page as well. But just to provide members and officers with some comfort that I'm not anticipating this is going to be an issue. I think we'll come through the programme nicely, and we'll start to see an improvement as the quarters go on. So I've just mentioned the next page is our new businesses. What we've done in this regard is given the officers to concentrate on the higher risk businesses, but this is of course showing as red. Another unhelpful target in terms of new businesses is, of course, that the Food Law Code of Practice details that we have to get to those businesses within 28 days of them starting business. So we're on a time limit as soon as we begin. But as I mentioned, I'm anticipating that we will catch up as the quarters go on. The next page there in the pack relates to broadly compliant food premises. This is not really a target for us. This is what we see while we go out and do those interventions, and really some promising and really good levels of compliance there. When I talk about broadly compliant, we're talking about those 3 rated premises and above. And again, all of the areas there showing above national average. As you know, we get lots of enforcement in SRS, but given these levels, that demonstrates that the majority of our businesses are operating to very good standards. In terms of high risk in trading standards inspections, you'll notice there was one amber in the Vale of Glamorgan, but that's in terms of a missed inspection, and that is in hand. And new businesses in trading standards, you are seeing some red there, which ties in with the food hygiene new businesses. I've explained previously that what we tend to do in this regard is that we use environmental health officers to carry out the trading standards inspections at the same time. That's all about our 2-for-1, if you will, and less burden on business. So whilst one PI suffers and gets that red rag rating, that automatically then affects the other. But again, I'm anticipating we will recover nicely come the end of the financial year. I'm going to jump around just before I pass to Will, just because minimum energy efficiency is also part of my remit. And you will see that that is articulated with red rag status, which doesn't truly reflect the work that's actually going on in this area at the moment. So you'll know that previously we were focusing on finding out those premises which we deem to be non-compliant, so those F to G rated premises in terms of their EPCs. We're at a stage now where we want to conclude that batch, if you like, that we were working on previously. And from the hundreds that were shown, we've managed to get that down to actually just 9 across the SRS region. So we have issued those 9 landlords with compliance notices, which is the first stage, and if they don't comply, we then look at penalty compliance notices. So we really want to deal with minimum energy efficiency in terms of batches, to keep it very clean in terms of our enforcement. but also moving on now through the financial year, we're looking at our next batch of, or next tranche of known F&Gs, but also we're moving into elements of proactive projects for those premises actually being marketed with EPCs of F&Gs, and of course the non-compliance there. So we'll have further updates shortly, but I just wanted to briefly explain why you're seeing reds when that doesn't truly reflect the work that's going on in that team. So happy to take any questions, and if not, I'll bring Will in to do his piece of the performance. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Are there any questions specifically on that, what that Christina's spoken about now? If not, we can bring in Will.
Thanks, Chair. So you'll be pleased to know I'll be brief. As members will see from the report, the vast majority of targets have been met or even exceeded in pollution control and the licensing teams in Q1. So mostly greens there. The only exception was a slight shortfall against the one-day response time for commercial noise and air complaints, but overall I think the shortfall was something like 15 inquiries. So overall excellent performance, particularly in a period where we have seen an increase in inquiries to the team, not just through pollution, but also through the impact of new legislation in the licensing teams as well. So happy to report on that and take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Will. Do any members have any questions? No. So, sorry, I've lost my who's next? Sorry.
I'm going to come back in here, Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah, sorry, I lost it. It's on my other laptop now, so I've lost it. I've lost my list.
Yeah, I'll take the next section, Chair, and then after that we'll go back to Chris for the item after that, which is the communicable disease plan. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to look at in some detail at some of our prosecution cases, and I thought this might be a good point, and apologies to members for jumping about, but just to give a mention to Appendix 4, which we've mentioned at the end of this overview and update report. But I thought it would fit quite nicely just to give a quick mention to that Appendix 4, which provides a summary of the cases that have concluded between the 1st of April this year and the end of August when the reports were compiled. So a total of 14 cases have concluded in court. And again, they represent really well the breadth of enforcement action and responsibility taken right across the service. So just very briefly, we have in Appendix 4 a summary of a case on nuisance bird feeding, nuisance caused by smoke and smell, 2 rogue trading and fraud cases, 1 private rented sector housing enforcement case, prevention of damage by pests, failure of a Hackney carriage driver to take a fare, 2 illegal vapes and or illegal tobacco cases, and a health and safety at work case. And in addition, there were 4 food hygiene and 1 food fraud case. So if there are any questions on any of those cases, if members would like any further information, then very happy to provide that, probably outside of the meeting, if they would like any further details. And then going back to this next section, Chair, starting at 2.12 in the paper, I just wanted to focus in on 2 of those cases, which I very, very briefly mentioned, which are included in Appendix 4. And these are the 2 I think we could say, are high profile enforcement outcomes in food safety cases. So members will be familiar with the SRS compliance and enforcement policy. And through that policy, we always aim initially to work with business to provide the support and the advice to ensure that compliance is achieved in a positive way. And that obviously is helpful for the business, it's helpful for the customers of the business, and also for the broader economy. So I think it would be nice if we could bring some of that working with business elements of the service possibly to a future meeting, and we can showcase that, because it is very, very important to us. However, there are occasions, as in these two cases, where circumstances are so serious that formal action is really warranted from the outset. And in such cases, we will obviously recommend formal action, including prosecution, as in these two cases. So the first of the cases to conclude was against the national supermarket retailer, and serious failings were identified in its stock rotation systems. So the matter came to light following a programmed food hygiene inspection at a Cardiff supermarket, with officers finding a significant number of items of food past their use-by date, which clearly is an offence. Further out-of-date items are found at the same store in a subsequent visit, and then visits to another of that same supermarket stores, again in Cardiff, identified even more products on sale after their use-by date. So over a period of 4 months, visits, inspections resulted in over 100 items of food being found on sale past their use-by dates. And in some cases, the date had expired as many as 15 days prior to the date of the visit. Clearly, this is of major concern, because high-risk items such as meat and dairy products, which would pose a significant health risk when consumed beyond their use-by dates, were included in the projects that were identified. So the company pleaded guilty to 4 charges of selling unsafe food at a hearing in May, and then the matter was sentenced in July. And the judge then recognised the seriousness of the company's failings and the fact that this wasn't an isolated, localised incident or some sort of mistake, but it was a systemic problem across multiple product lines, across 2 stores and across a period of 4 months. So on that basis, the company was sentenced, and they received a fine of £640,000 and ordered to pay costs exceeding £15,000. And I think one of the really rewarding elements of this case is the media interest in it, and it's been able to reinforce those messages on compliance with the law. And that interest was online coverage in print, right across the news media and also the trade publications. And you'll see at 2.19, a very familiar face, Christina, in an interview given on the steps of the court to the BBC. And that obviously was something that achieved widespread media coverage. So moving to 2.20, the second of the 2 cases, very different, but again, a very significant outcome. So this was a Cardiff chicken wholesale company who were supplying product to ethnic restaurants and takeaways right across South Wales. And this was a major SRS investigation, which started pre-pandemic. And it identified a catalogue of failings, including very poor food hygiene practices, evidence of poultry being defrosted and refrozen, chicken found 2 years after the durability marking, temperature records not being kept up to date, and the transport of meat as far as West Wales in unclean vehicles that were not refrigerated. So major alarm bells. In addition to all of that, the company was passing off chicken supplied to its customers as being halal when there was no evidence of that chicken being halal. So the company director actually pleaded guilty at on an earlier occasion, but his co-defendant, who was the food business operator, chose to plead not guilty to all the charges. That resulted in him facing a 2-week Crown Court trial. And the outcome of that, the court took a very dim view of the practices within that company. And sentencing again took place in July, and the judge then said that it was evident that the food business operator was not willing to take any responsibility for those failings, preferring to blame employees. And major concerns, obviously, from perspective of food hygiene, but also the food fraud and the misdescription of chicken as being halal. And 2.24, you'll see the results of that sentencing hearing for the food business operator who pleaded not guilty, 4 years and 8 months imprisonment, and the company director got a suspended sentence. And again, in this case, press coverage has been significant, and you'll see in 2.25 a little compilation there of some of the international headlines, including a headline from a Sydney publication, and also the Times of India. And it's really interesting to see the reach of these cases. So 2 superb investigations by officers, taking a huge amount of time and effort. And both of these significant food safety cases really exemplify the excellent working relationships between the shared service and the partner councils, legal services teams, excuse me, and the communications teams. And pretty groundbreaking stuff that we've just highlighted there, and it's nice to see that officers have been invited to a number of conferences, as you'll see in 2.26, really to share the services experiences of those cases and the learning that has arisen from them. So happy there, Chair, to take any questions before we move to the next section.
Yeah, I mean, if do any members have any questions? I mean, I have just a comment really to say that, I mean, again, this is another really good model of how shared working works, and works really well in terms of the serious investigations team, because we couldn't, as each member council, we couldn't afford to do it on our own, but actually together we can have a team that can produce this level of work. And I'm assuming we got our costs as a result of the prosecutions, just checking.
Yes, I'm presuming they have come in, Chair, yes.
Yes. Norma.
Again, just comment, just to say thank you, and and the team, excellent work again. And something I think we can all be proud of, that you're getting work, prosecutions at that level is incredible, really. Yeah, so well done all.
Thanks, Norma. So if there are no more questions, are we back to Christina now?
We are, Chair. Thank you very much. Just back to me briefly, and yeah, a face for radio photograph that's appeared in that report.
No, I was going to mention that's a very good photograph and well done.
In action shot, I think, there, Chair. So the section here of the report that I'm going to talk about is the communicable disease service plan. I'm not proposing, Chair, to go into that in any detail. It's a plan for information purposes in relation to that part of the service. The plan is really produced to articulate our very comprehensive health protection and improvement service. It's delivered by combining surveillance, public health interventions, epidemiological studies, enforcement advice, training and health promotion. Much of the reactive surveillance work that forms part of the foundation for our proactive evidence-based interventions focuses the at-risk groups, for example, our young and elderly members of the community. You'll also be aware that the outbreak investigations of gastrointestinal illness also forms a major part of that team. We respond swiftly to outbreaks involving pathogens like E. coli, Campylobacter, and our response times, which are set by Public Health Wales, vary from 4 hours to 96 hours, so very much a team who are there to respond swiftly. So we work very closely with Public Health Wales colleagues, in particular the consultant in communicable disease control, and we as a partnership investigate outbreaks, and those this year have included links to raw milk and raw milk vending machines, and also outbreaks associated with food festivals. So again, just to highlight the work that's going on, it's there for members' information purposes, but obviously happy to take any questions should you wish. And that's it from me, Chair.
Thanks, Christina. Are there any questions? No. Okay, so I think it's back to Will. I'm looking forward to this, Will, about all the complaints about concerts.
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, this part of the report really outlines for members how the SRS support events that take place across the regions. Normally this takes the form of advice and guidance to the various event planning groups that exist. So since April, SRS have supported over 70 events, and paragraph 2.30 outlines the types of input we have across the various disciplines in the service. Some of the event examples are given in 2.31, and they range from the Maesteg Town Food Pop-Up to larger events such as Glastonbury and the Open Golf Championship that took place in Porthcawl. But as you stated, from paragraph 2.32, we take a deeper look at the pop concerts in Cardiff this summer, and particularly the opening of Blackware Fields as a new concert venue, and how SRS were involved in that process. So I think it's fair to say the decision to open up Blackware as a venue was not without controversy. There were some local residents and groups who were opposed and lobbied against the decision. But the council have laid out their rationale and reasons for opening up the concert venue, which are at 2.32. And after a licensing hearing, a license was granted with a detailed set of conditions, which the SRS were closely involved with the acoustician who was appointed by the event promoter in order for us to agree a set of conditions which would minimize the disturbance to local residents. 4 events eventually took place with over 100,000 spectators attending. The noise pollution team in Cardiff and the Vale had officers at each event. Obviously, a lot of overtime took place, and they tried to respond in real time with complainants in order for us then to feed back to the acoustician and the event promoters any changes to some of the levels that were giving rise to complaint, really to try and minimise disturbance to the local residents. We did, however, have over 100 noise complaints which were received, and the report actually breaks that down by the event in 2.34. And some of those did relate to things like sound checks, particularly in the first event, which I think the event promoter learned some lessons then, and we didn't get a repeat of that in further concerts. So there are some pictures in the report. and some of them will indicate the proximity of residential areas and sensitive noise receptors near to the venue. The complaints that we received were mainly from the inner city wards, Cathays, Adamstown, Plasnewydd, some of those wards directly nearby to the venue, but it did depend on wind direction as well. Moving on to sort of the other work of the team, it was a busy season for the noise team, as we also had concerts taking place at Cardiff Castle, which is an established venue, but there were a total of 19 events that took place, as well as the Principality Stadium. You know, for instance, everyone knows that the Oasis concert took place there. So there were some major international acts taking place in the city at the same time. And although traditionally, I would say the Principality Stadium is not such a sensitive venue from a noise perspective, we did see an uptick in noise complaints related to the Cardiff Castle events. And we think part of that may have been some sensitivity from you know, the Blackware concert venue being opened as well. There's a little bit about the makeup of the team detailed at paragraph 2.38, as well as the volume of the complaints they have to respond to. So you'll see it's quite a small team of professional officers and a technical officer. And summer is anyway traditionally their busiest season, irrespective of other events in the city. And whilst I think in totality the events were successful and generally compliant with the conditions that were placed upon the licence for Blackware, for instance, it did mean that officers sometimes had to bear the brunt of some local residents' unhappiness, which I think is true to say they handled with sympathy and professionalism. And I'd like to thank the team actually for all their hard work, along with Claire Hartree, who's the team manager and was heavily involved in organising the work. You'll see at the end of the piece at 2.39, we stress the importance of all the SRS work being covered through the fees charged by each council to the event organisers, and that's to enable us really to continue to support these events, which, you know, everyone recognises are important for the regions that we serve. So that's a very quick run through the work of the team in the summer, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Will. I have to plead guilty to going to the concert, so I think they were brilliant. So, and in fact, I think I did also hear. I certainly heard the Tom Jones concert from Penarth. I think the wind must have changed, so I certainly heard some of that, but not, I mean, not to complain. And I just from my experience of attending the Stevie Wonder concert, it did stop fairly promptly, I think around 10 o'clock, so that must have been one of the conditions. So it stopped fairly promptly, and you know, people were moved. So I'm assuming the concerts did kind of
yeah, they were compliant. I mean, it's impossible, as you can imagine, to have open air rock concerts in proximity to residential housing. There will be noise that will be able to be heard. It's all about how you try and minimize that.
That's right.
Through sound levels that are set, and also the times that the events take place. And yes, you know, we're content that in the vast majority of the concerts that they were completely compliant, albeit residents, you know, will have heard the music and it would have gone on until 10. So our role really was to try and minimize that disturbance and ensure that they complied with the, you know, the conditions and the codes of practice that exist for these types of events.
And you also had to deal with rock stars, let's face it, to stop on time.
Not personally, I don't think.
But so a bit more seriously though, so the issue around fees, is that a conversation that SRS have directly, or we do it through Cardiff Council in terms of their negotiations with the promoters and the
Yeah, I think really it's just a recognition. It's not just the noise pollution team. I mean, Christina and Jason will have officers who are involved as I sort of covered, from trading standards, food
That's right,
hygiene.
yeah.
We all have input, and that all does suck up resource. So I think it's maybe looking at the totality of the work that we do with events to try and recognise how that can be spread out in resource, because obviously councils do receive some money from these events, not all of them, but some of them. And I have to say, in relation to Cardiff, there were some discussions with senior officers, and it was agreed that the significant amount of overtime that officers had to spend going out on the weekend and in the evening policing these events would be covered by the council. So we have informal arrangements, but maybe that's something we need to look at with,
Yes, concrete,
with the council.
yeah. And sorry, Norma, just one more question. In terms of complaints, say, around the noise, I mean, I know this was an unusual summer because we had, it was a summer full of concerts. How does that compare, would you say, to another summer where, we've had concerts? I mean, is it, I guess what I'm saying, because from when we look at the figures, it doesn't look like a huge number.
No,
but I don't know, from your, I realised in terms of the team working with those complainants, it's obviously time intensive, but in terms of a percentage, what would you say?
Well, as a percentage of our overall complaints, it's obviously very small. I think what I would say is that we rarely get complaints about noise from the Principality just because of the nature of it. Cardiff Castle has been an event arena for many years, and we do get people complaining and saying that the noise is too loud occasionally. I would say we did have an uptick this year, and I think there may have been some sensitivity from local residents that another venue had been opened, and maybe that raised the profile of how you complain if you're disturbed.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, as I said, the venue was a success and was compliant with the conditions that were placed upon it for the vast majority of the time. And as part of a review, which I think it is, the venue is going to be used next year, we'd have to look at lessons learned from this year to make sure that we can ensure that, the disturbance is kept to a minimum.
Yeah, for residents. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Will. Okay, Norma, sorry to keep you waiting.
Again, I mean, Blackbeard turned out to be sort of very controversial, I think. And thanks again to the team. I mean, I know Reese particularly has done an awful lot of work with residents. And I mean, we've had meetings with residents as well, to try and sort of pacify them a little. The impression of SRS, from what I picked up from the ones, even the strongest complainers, were very happy with what they were, the way they were treated, and what they were told. They didn't quite believe all of it, but they were compliant. But still, we've already got some bookings for it again for next year. I think it's a strain it's putting on your team that worries me as well, as the other teams that the council teams as well that are trying to manage, especially when there were two venues sometimes on the same night. So I think we'll try maybe not do that again, but it'd be interesting to have a longer chat, Will, maybe about sort of what we can do to make sure it's better for the city centre and the immediate outlying wards, because we have had quite harsh feedback from it, and it is going on again. So it we need to have maybe an introduction before they all some comms that goes out. To maybe sort of get a better understanding of what's going on before it actually happens.
Yeah, more than happy to meet up separately, Councillor. I think that'd be useful. And it was remiss of me. I mentioned Claire Hartree as the team manager, but Rhys Morgan has also taken in that noise team. He's a supervisor there and has also taken a lead in engaging with the event promoter. So thank you for reminding me of that. But yes, I mean, you know, that is something that we're more than happy to do, and we'll continue to work with you know, the other council teams that were involved and the event promoter as needs be.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and
Thank
for
you.
you know, for anybody who really enjoyed the events, we got some good ones coming up, I think.
I'll be there.
Right, yeah. No shouting too much. Thanks.
Thanks, Norman, and thanks, Will.
No worries.
I think we're over to Jason now. Is Jason
Yes,
here?
thanks, Chair.
Oh yeah, hi Jason.
Hiya. Yeah, so just next section of the report is just giving an update on some of the safeguarding work our safeguarding team has undertaken, and just highlighting some examples of their work, and then I'll touch upon some of the audits that have recently been undertaken for the service as well. So paragraph 2.4 to 2.42 is just giving members a flavour of some of the work that our safeguarding officers do get involved in across the entire region. So just to give an example really of how we've used some civil law practices here, and the new legislation that came in as part of the mandatory authorised push payment reimbursement scheme that has been put onto financial institutions. So a really good example of this resulted in the officers being able to secure a £19,000 refund to one of our victims. And that came directly through the trading platform rather than any prosecution being undertaken. So the victim in this case had identified a builder through one of the online trading platforms, engaged in those services. But the builder, or rogue trader really in this case, identified that an entire new roof was needed, but really that probably wasn't the case. And the work that was undertaken was very of a poor standard, really, and all the work had to be redone. The substandard work led to severe water ingress to the victim's property, and that obviously caused internal damage. So the victim initially paid out £12,000. The additional costs of £7,000 to rectify any damage. And the victim here was threatened. So our officers got involved with this, got in touch with the online trading platform, and made them aware that really, you know, had they really vetted this trader and allowed them to be on their platform, and obviously identified that the online platform potentially faced the possibility of being liable for the residents' damage and losses under the tort and negligence, i.e. that they allowed this to be facilitated through not undertaking correct checks to allow this builder to be on their platform. So, as we said, with our involvement using this civil recovery and these new requirements, this allowed the case to be taken, and the platform fully refunded the victim for the full costs and losses. Just really, you know, identifies the work that the team get involved in. Don't always take prosecutions, and try and help the victims, you know, to get quicker resolutions using civil law. And this is areas that we can look to take forward more proactively as a service, really. And just highlighting 2.43, really, we also then do proactive work with communities, and we'll attend community events and give advice and sort of information to community groups, to residents directly, really, about making them aware of how to avoid doorstep crime, becoming victims of rogue traders. And that allows us to provide information into the leaflet, grab stickers, and really raising awareness. So if any members do know of any community events, you know, our officers are always willing to attend these and be able to provide that information firsthand. Moving to 2.44 to 2.46, really, just again, highlighting one of the cases that we've been involved in recently. This again revolved around the prosecution of rogue builders. But really, as part of this case, a lot of concerning safeguarding issues arose. We initially got involved in this case through a referral from colleagues in social services in Bridgend, who had concerns on the resident being victim of rogue traders. So we identified in this case there was a father and son were engaged as the rogue traders and they were doing driveway repairs of new driveways, typical sort of rogue trader behaviors, taking payments up front, charging more than was agreed, and just really poor standards of work, not completing the work in some of these cases. For one of our victims in this case, he was a vulnerable man, as I said, living in Bridgend. And this took a really sort of, quite a sort of dark twist, really, in terms of one of the defendants in the case was a daughter of the two main rogue traders. And she developed a personal relationship and befriended the gentleman to such an extent that, she was administering medicine, taking him out in a car, and really getting him to withdraw money from the bank. Really concerning in this case that she actually then, had gotten on meetings with his financial advisor to such the extent that she was able to fraudulently ring up his pension company and get to withdraw £50,000 from his pension fund. Unfortunately, the pension company mistook her for the gentleman in question because she had all these details that she was able to get through all the security questions, but they just didn't twig that it wasn't him on the phone. Thankfully, his financial advisor in this case was able to get the money put into the case. And really, this, for the first time with the service, we actually contacted the NCA as part of this investigation, National Crime Agency, and gave them the recording of the telephone conversation, and they used technology and voice recognition expertise to scrutinize the call, and we were able to get expert witness statements to say yes, this was her on the call and not the gentleman. That helped as part of the prosecution, really. So thankfully, a really good outcome in this case in terms of that the father received an immediate custodial sentence of 12 months while the son and daughter received suspended sentences. So really just highlighting just some of the concerning cases that the team get involved in and some of the investigations that we get involved in, really. So I can pause there if there's any questions on this case or the safeguarding work as well before I move on to the audit results.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Maxine, I think have you got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I can't put my camera on for some reason.
That's okay.
But Jason, I just want to say, as a councillor of Bridgend Council, thank you very, very much for protecting our residents. And that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as I said, it was a very challenging case, this one. That's great. So yeah, just moving on to paragraphs 2.47 through to 2.52 and just giving members updates on recent audits that have been undertaken in the service. So the first one is around the SRS governance and financial controls. This is usually undertaken every year by the external regional internal audit service. And obviously the purpose of this audit really looks at, to provide necessary assurance to the committee that the financial controls and the governance are operating effectively and that we fully comply with the council's policies and procedures, particularly around the financial procedure rules and contract procedural rules. So this audit looked at obviously the 2024 to 2025 financial year. And members will probably be pleased to know that this audit gave us a result of a reasonable assurance, meaning that there's a generally sound system of governance, risk management and control in place. And supporting this, there were some low to medium priority recommendations, only 2 this year, mainly looking around our petty cash and just getting some of the names on the accounts updated with members who have left and joined the service. The second audit then looked at our Walesley Legal Money Lending grant for 24-25, again undertaken by the Regional Internal Audit Service. And again, this came out as a substantial assurance, meaning that there was a sound system of governance, risk management and control is existing around the management of this grant. And members would be pleased to know that actually we had no recommendations for improvement on this grant. And just finally then, just paragraphs 2.5 to 2.52, a very recent audit on the Shared Services Mass Calibration Metrology Lab, which is currently based in County Hall. So this was the full reassessment visit. It's a 4-year cycle. We get audited annually, and this is the 4th year on this. And again, I think members will be really pleased to know that our lab maintains a robust quality management system, which is supported by our policies and procedures, and we're fully compliant with the ISO standard of 17028/2017. Really pleasing that the auditors found that the document control is well managed, and evidence was presented during the audit of how we keep our procedures and processes fully up to date, and that we have a full systems of backup, storage and retention, that all the lab documentations is fully appropriate. Again, really just this demonstrates this is an income generation. We go out to external customers who have to have weights come to us for calibration and rectification. So really it's pleasing to see that we've had this audit from UCAS and retain the accreditation going forward. And I'll finish there, and I'll take any questions on any of those audits if members have any. Sorry, Chair, you're on mute.
I think you're getting away with that one, Jason. Do any members have any specific questions? Thank you very much.
I think it's back over to Helen, I believe.
Helen, do you want to conclude the report, or should we move on to the?
Yeah, it's just down to the recommendations now, Chair, which I'm happy to read out. So the Joint Committee is asked to consider, note and agree the contents of this report, to approve the 2025-26 Communicable Disease Plan, and authorise the Head of Shared Regulatory Services to make administrative amendments to the Communicable Disease Plan 2025-26 should the need arise.
Thank you. So can I have a mover and seconder for that report, please?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Pam. You seconding?
Yes, I'll second that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that. That was gave us some good detail on the service. So thank you very much. So if we move to the next item, I think that's back to you, Christina.
It is, yes. Thank you, Chair. So today I'll be doing a short presentation in relation to our Food Law Enforcement Service Plan. Now, we've obviously changed platforms. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and hope all works well. But Gareth is here as a backup. He does have a copy of my presentation. So bear with me. I'll try myself, Gareth, and if not, I'll come to you if I may.
Right. Yep.
Thank you.
That looks good.
Yep, all
Lovely.
good.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Chair, just to refer to the actual report itself, in terms of the recommendations, I will be asking committee to approve the 25-26 Food Law Enforcement Service Plan, and as usual, authorising Helen to make administrative amendments should the need arise throughout the year. So in terms of the FLESP, as we call it, the Food Law Enforcement Service Plan, this presentation outlines the 25-26 enforcement plan. We'll explore how our work protects public health, supports businesses, and ensures food and feed across our communities. Just checking, Chair, that you're moving on with the slides with me there. And you've moved on to the second one.
Yeah, aim of the
Lovely.
plan. Yeah.
Great, lovely. Okay, so we produce this plan on an annual basis in line with the Food Standards Agency's framework agreement. as we are required to produce this plan setting out our arrangements to discharge our duties. It's also useful for us then to take a review and really look at the intelligence that we have in our area. Our work is grounded in statutory duties under the Food Safety Act and aligned with the Food Standards Agency's strategies of Food We Can Trust. And the plan sets out our priorities and how we'll deliver them over the coming year. In terms of our aims and objectives, our core aim is obviously to protect public health by ensuring food and feed is safe and properly labelled. We've identified 13 key priorities, from risk-based inspections, complaint handling to enforcement and supporting the food hygiene rating scheme. In terms of strategic alignment, our work supports the broader goals of our partner councils and aligns with Wales's national enforcement policies. These include protecting public health, ensuring food chain integrity, promoting fair business practices, and supporting environmental sustainability. Everything we do in this area contributes to these outcomes. So in terms of the scope of the service, we talk to you a lot about the work that we do, but we cover a wide range of services, from food hygiene and standards inspections to food safety enforcement. Our teams also issue export health certificates. They conduct sampling programmes and manage port health inspections. So this comprehensive scope ensures that food and feed safety is there from farm to fork. You know that we serve over 650,000 residents across really diverse communities. Cardiff being a dynamic capital city, Bridgend blends rural and coastal tourism, and the Vale of Glamorgan offers agricultural richness and key infrastructures like Barry Docks and Cardiff Airport. This diversity shapes our enforcement challenges and opportunities and really makes us an organisation like no other in terms of food in Wales. In terms of the volume and size and scale, if you like, of the food and feed premises, I just outlined in this slide the number of food businesses we have on our patch. So as you can see, over 6,000 food businesses and over 1,000 feed premises. And these range from retailers and caterers to manufacturers and livestock farms. And understanding the types and distribution of these premises really helps us plan interventions and allocate resources effectively and based on what we know is going on in our area. In terms of the intervention programmes, that's set out in this document and we are required to do so. So our interventions are very much risk-based. The food hygiene inspections follows a category system from A to E. We report in terms of our performance, in terms of those A to C, and of course new businesses. Food standard focuses on composition, labelling, allergens, and the feed hygiene inspections target the manufacturers and farms. And of course, I mentioned previously, our new businesses are or should be inspected within 28 days in accordance with the code. And that's to ensure very early compliance from start of a business. In terms of sampling and surveillance, you'll know that sampling is a critical part of our enforcement. So we conduct microbiological and chemical testing, and we participate in national surveys and focus on issues such as allergens, food fraud, and initiatives like Opson help us tackle criminal activities in the food supply chain. We should be mindful and remember that it was an environmental health sampling officer that actually identified the horse meat scandal in the first place. So food sampling is really key to see what's going on out there and help us deliver in this regard. In terms of complaints and alerts, you'll see I've detailed the number of complaints there and food safety alerts that come in via the Food Standards Agency, and of course the proactive enforcement and follow-up work that goes on. So it's not just that programme of inspections and interventions and the sampling, we're obviously dealing with matters as they come in on a risk-based approach. And then partnership and advice. You've obviously had this information previously, but just wanted to flag the number of primary authority partnerships that we have on offer, and advice through inspections, our website and training events. We also support local festivals and run initiatives like the Food Hygiene Surgery to help businesses improve. We see that these partnerships really enhance compliance and build in our trust. But let's talk a little bit about enforcement. And we all love to see these pictures of grime and things that we really shouldn't be seeing. I spoke previously about our really good levels of broadly compliant figures. However, we do get these instances in terms of enforcement where we need to act swiftly and robustly. And some of these things come in, these matters come in via complaints and also are found on routine inspections. So just to talk through those pictures that I have on screen, because you probably might not be clear as to what I'm referring at. So far left there is actually a dead rat caught in a trap, but has been partially eaten by other rats. And apologies to be doing this before the lunchtime slot. So this visit was undertaken in response to a complaint and found a rat infestation with droppings throughout, including food on display on shelves and next to bread, next to sweets, and no pet food on sale in the shop, and where pest proofing was really required. The business was closed due to the imminent risk that was found by the officer. And of course, that investigation remains ongoing. So just to highlight, you obviously know this, but rodents in food businesses pose a serious health risk as they spread disease such as salmonella, leptospirosis, and through drop-ins and urine, which can contaminate food and cause foodborne illness. Unfortunately, we do get more instances of these type of matters in SRS than any other authority in Wales. The middle there is actually a mouse in a toilet that's drowned in some water. So this routine inspection of a takeaway, drop-ins were noted in the basement of the business, particularly in the cupboards and storage areas, the dead mouse found in the toilet in the basement of the business, and again, drop-ins throughout. There were some gaps found through around the pipework, and of course under the hand wash basins. So again, lack of pest proofing, lack of adequate controls, obviously a mice infestation there, which found an officer finding this mouse in the toilet. And then far right are actually some cockroaches. Now, I wish I could show you the video of this infestation because it really does speak for itself. So that this was again in response to a complaint from a member of the public. A visit was undertaken at, again, a takeaway premise, and there was a widespread infestation of cockroaches running up the walls, across the floor, in mouse bait box, in the food storage preparation areas, and the business was closed by voluntary agreement. Now, of course, more worryingly is that these businesses continue to operate and continue to put their consumers at risk. So it's really important that we as a service are responding swiftly and robustly to any complaint or anything that we find on our interventions. And of course, where we fall behind in terms of our interventions, we're not spotting these risks to public health. So in terms of staffing and resources, of course, I have to plug this. I've said it many times. So we have just over 47.5 FTE professional staff operating in the food service, which sounds a considerable amount of staff. However, given the size and scale that I've presented to you today, actually, you'll know that this is a very high risk, high energy, high turnover service, which really is under-resourced. So you will see I've identified the budget allocated to it. But as part of this plan, we must identify where there's shortfall in staff to undertake our statutory functions in this regard. So I put it there in red for you all to see that there is a shortfall of 6 FTEs needed to meet the demands placed on the Food Safety Service and deliver the food safety programme in accordance with the Food Law Code of Practice. And the FSA are very clear. They expect all elements of the Food Law Code of Practice to be delivered. So we've had to be very innovative and really look at our resource and be quite lean in the things that we do. So we look at identifying contractors to fill that gap where we can. We use funding from other areas to bolster that. But of course, contractors are very transient in nature. and maintaining those relationships are difficult. Cost of living crisis is also seeing that contractors are seeking higher rates, and that of course has an impact then on our budget. So in conclusion, you know, as we're presenting this on a regular basis, that we're committed to public health and regulatory excellence. We are strategic, high risk approach, and we're dedicated to protecting public health and supporting safe, fair food and feed practices. Through this strategic planning, collaboration and innovation, we're ready to meet the challenges of 25, 26 and beyond. So, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions. I'll stop sharing at that point, if I can.
Thank you, Christina. As usual, that was a very thorough look, and again highlights, you know, the fact that SRS, an important bit of our work is public health, and when our the councils, our member councils are looking at contributions and budgets next year, they have to bear that in mind in terms of making sure that can still flourish as a service. So are there any specific questions from members? Norma?
Just, I mean, you know, fantastic work done again, you know, by everybody, and it is concerning that we haven't got, you know, the staff that we need to have really funded to do that. And to pay out contractors is fine, isn't it? Because I imagine they, you know, do the work well. They obviously are, because we get results. But that is an expensive way of doing things, isn't it? So it maybe we should be looking at how those you know, how that is funded, and maybe we should consider as three authorities how we can improve that. I don't know, leave that open to you.
So Councillor, just to come back, and in response to that, we've done this for many years, and I feel like we're very experienced now in terms of dealing with contractors in this regard. So we operate on a paid for per inspection basis with contractors. So we're absolutely seeking value for money in terms of the work that we're giving to them. But of course, the internal monitoring of those contractors does have an impact on the managers in the service, because of course, we don't want contractors just to go in and do the numbers for us. We want those quality inspections like we expect of our staff. It's all right to say we've done so many inspections. We need to be finding those matters whilst we're there. So I think we very much have a good experience process in terms of dealing with those contractors, and again offering that value for money basis. But of course, you know, we've talked about apprenticeships previously, we've talked about the lack of people coming through the profession, and particularly in food, there just aren't enough staff to go around. So we have to be innovative in terms of you know, the staff that we're using. And I do have my eye on those apprenticeships coming through, of course, because of course we need to get them up to a certain standard and sell in our specific areas of the service. So yes, I will be leaning on them hopefully to come and have some experience in food. But I hope that's given you some comfort, Councillor, in terms of the value for money element of using contractors as well, and that is monitored closely.
Yes, thanks, Christina. Yeah, it's still a concern, though, isn't it? That you know what I mean. Yeah, you know, the amount of work that has to be done, and and the effort of monitoring all of that. Yeah, so yeah, well done, everybody. But not an easy job, that one.
Thanks, Norman, and thanks, Christina. So can I have Christina covered the recommendations at the beginning of her report. So can I have a mover and seconder, please?
Happy to move again.
Thank you. And Pam,
I'll second that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
that's going through. So I know we've got two more reports, and I'm just wondering, because we've got our auditor here, should we do that first so we could release him?
Fine by me.
Hi, David. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just I've somehow managed to close the actual report. If you can just bear with me.
That's okay. So just for members to be clear, this is item 7. Audit Wales is the audit plan. I'm bringing that forward before item 6. Okay, Mark,
There
do you
you
want
go.
to go?
Yeah, thanks. I closed that without realising it. Hi everyone. Just to introduce myself, I've joined the audit. Auditors rotate after certain periods, and most of you know Steve Wyndham, who is the audit manager. And Steve has rotated away from the Vale audit, and I've rotated onto it a few months ago. So I'm Mark Jones, and the new audit manager for financial audit work at the council and the associated entities like the SRS committee. And today is the audit plan with regard to the annual accounts for 24-25, so that financial year for the committee. And I'm sure most members on screen are familiar with the annual process there. I will take the report mainly as read and invite questions. So I won't go through it in any great detail, but happy to take any questions. One thing I will say is on page 8 of the report, we say there's a paragraph there that says we haven't started any audit planning yet, but we want to get a plan to you because it covers, for example, the team, the fee, the timetable, some of the key kind of risks and areas of interest that relate to kind of recent audits, like last year's audits and so forth. But that will be under further consideration as part of our upcoming audit planning. And should there be any changes in this plan to the section on financial statement risks and areas of focus, if there are any changes, we come back to you as members and draw those to your attention. So that's an important paragraph on page 8 of the report. But other than that, it covers the usual content from the AGW and Audit Wales on the nature of the report, the plan rather, and team, cost, risks, etc. And there's some links as well to some of our other reporting on our website, like our quality control arrangements and things like that, and the fee scheme that's approved by the Senedd and so on. So I'll stop there and happy to take questions from members if they have any.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so just to be clear, this is the plan for the audit going forward. So it really is for us as a committee to I think the recommendation is just to note it, I think. Is that right, Gareth?
It is, Chair, yes, just to note it.
So unless there are specific questions on the plan, in terms of its of the process, I think we can just note that for now then. Brilliant. And I'm sorry we've kept you, Mark, but thank you for coming.
No, that's fine. And yeah, if there are no questions, that's great. We move forward on that basis, and noting the plan is what we were expecting as well, as opposed to approving it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So then moving on to our final report, which is item 6, which is about the head of shared regulatory services. And for this, we're bringing in the big honcho himself, Miles.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. So Helen leaves us, as you know, leaves the SRS after 36 years in local government. So unfortunately, you must make provision for her replacement. So I'd like to just put on record my thanks to Helen at this stage. Helen was instrumental in the setup of SRS over 10 years ago, and has been highly instrumental in its success until then. I'm sure all of us wish Helen every success and good health in her retirement next year. So, Chair, this committee report seeks the authority of the Joint Committee to progress with the recruitment arrangements for Helen's replacement. It is a requirement of the joint working agreement that this committee makes the appointment to that post. So we're seeking authority to start the recruitment process. The recruitment process will be undertaken initially by the board, which is made up of senior officers from the 3 partner councils. So essentially, we will do a long list through the HR process, and then we'll do some technical interviews. Technical interviews are planned for the 2nd of December. And then what the officers will do then is take forward the candidates they think are suitable to joint committee, and a special meeting of the joint committee has been set up for the 3rd of December. So we're seeking authority of committee to progress on that basis. The job description and person spec will be similar to the current job description and person spec for Helen, and we will reflect the latest business plan in terms of the brief for that post and the details of it. So quite a straightforward report, Chair. We've done this before. So I'll just recap. We're seeking authority to start the recruitment process. Technical interviews will be undertaken on the 2nd of December by the board, and then we will put officers through to the joint committee for you to consider and to make an appointment if you see fit on the 3rd of December this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Miles. Yes, I think we've had those dates sent already, the December dates. So are there any questions on that? I think that this is fairly straightforward in the sense that Miles just needs our authorization to start the process of recruitment. So if we're all happy with that, can I have a mover and seconder for this report, please?
We'll move, even though we don't really want it to happen.
I know.
We don't want it to go.
I know. And you know, we would all echo what Miles has said in terms of thanks for Helen, but there will be time enough for that. So
yes, yeah.
Can I second, please, Chair?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Maxine.
And can I just say, Helen will only get bored. She can't go.
Yeah, don't go.
She'll want to come back after 2 weeks.
Pam, would you like to say something?
Yeah, have we got any times for that day on the 3rd of December?
I'm not sure that we have yet.
I didn't think we have. No.
We're probably, sorry, if I can just interject, probably aim for 10 o'clock, Chair.
Right, that's fine. Yeah. And I just want to say to Helen, well done, Helen, for all the work you've done. And I hope you've got a long bucket list for your retirement.
Oh, thank you, Councillor. And I'm blushing here in the background. Thank you all very, very much.
No, thank you. Brilliant. Okay, Miles.
You.
So there you go. Off you go. That's it. Brilliant. Sorry.
Yep, mute, Chair.
Sorry. I think that's the end of our part 1 agenda, and I have nothing for part 2. So thank you all very much for coming in. And again, apologies for the slight hitches at the beginning. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.